Stereotypes are one aspect of a person, but they're incomplete. What does that tell you as a leader in an organization? Go ahead.
You have to get to know your people.
You have to get to know your people, absolutely. Know something about them. Why?
To be able to communicate,
To understand how they're thinking, but understand their background. Go ahead. Yeah.
So you don't assume something about them, like, or just see them as single-dimensional.
To see that, exactly. That's the point I'm trying to get to. People are not one-dimensional. People are multi-dimensional. Every time we come into a room, we drag a bag full of who we are, aren't we? Don't we, as an individual? Each one of us is a unique collection of experiences and everything else as we grow up. Those are the bits and pieces that make us uniquely who we are. So you as a leader have to be someone who makes a conscious effort to understand the many dimensions that people are made of. Okay. Another thing that she talked about later in the video had to do with the reaction of a person who had read her book. The lady who had read her book came up to her in the lobby at the end of one of her presentations, and she said, "I loved your first book. And when you get ready to write the second book, this is what it should say." What does that tell you?
She's writing the story for her.
Exactly.
She's writing the story for her. She owned the story. The person who read the book assimilated so much that she actually owned the story to the point where she felt like she had a valid input into the next chapter, the next version of the book. So, in your handout, there's about the second page there. There's a slide called 3 Lenses and a Challenge. And this is what I'd like you to do during our time together, and the time with Doug as well, is to take a look at everything that we're presenting through 3 lenses. Lens 1, what does this have to do with me as a person? What does this have to do with me as a professional? And what does this mean in the context of my organization? Now, why am I asking you to do that?
Getting different perspectives from looking at yourself versus where you work versus what type of job you have.
Yeah. Does it seem possible to you that I'm asking you the same question 3 different ways? And so,
Context. Context.
okay. But aren't you the same person in all 3 contexts? Maybe not. Why is that? Why is that?
Because you conform to what you think you need to be sometimes.
Could be, yeah.
Because in different roles, different things may take higher precedence, or it just re-racks things a little bit in your mind, right? As a person, things may be different than if you're thinking about what your organization feels is important to them.
Yeah,
That, and it just changes as you put
Yeah.
that hat on.
yeah. You have a puzzled look on your face.
No, just thinking
Okay. What are you thinking?
of how you have to wear different hats depending on the situation, place, time.
Mm-hmm.
Just like if you, depending on what's going on at work, you usually take that hat off at the end of the day and then you put your family hat on when you get home, just so you don't bring work home.
Yeah, absolutely. Is this true for most of us? Sure. Yeah. At the end of the day, I might be, sitting in my room in my underwear watching HBO videos or something, right? And how I'm in that room is different from who I am as a professional in a large professional context. And then how I react in my organization or how I place myself in the organization can also be very different depending on the circumstances that are going on. I was thinking of what you were talking about with Doug yesterday. How do you act one way towards an individual and it's not getting the results you want. So as Doug was suggesting, you might have to change the way you approach it. You adopt a different lens. Okay. So this is one of the challenges that I would ask you to do is as you're going through all of this material today, this weekend, and through the rest of the time that you're in the program, look at it through 3 lenses. Your personal lens. What does it mean to me as an individual? What does it mean to me as a professional? And what does it mean in the context of my organization? And then lastly, what will I own? Adichie, the story that she told that you didn't get to see was a person who had assimilated the knowledge to the point where the person owned it, meaning it personally transformed them, and then they wanted to move the story forward. So during our time together, what I hope is that you will find some bit of this that you will own to the point to make it your own and use it to move forward. Because this is the way you learn as adults. I mean, you guys are all successful in your careers, reasonably so, I'm making an assumption. And part of that is because you've learned how to assimilate knowledge and make it work for you. And you've learned how to filter out what isn't important and all that kind of stuff, right? It's called heuristics. It's called a rule of thumb. We live by rules of thumb. And we filter out that which doesn't make sense to us. And so if what we're sharing today isn't attaching itself neatly to something to the point where you want to own it, then I've done you a disservice, and we need to go back over that material and help you understand that so that you will own it. So that's my goal. And my challenge to you is, at the end of what we talk about, is there something that you will own? I'm going to turn this off, Doug.